This week we begin the new season of Advent and the start of a new church year. And as I was reading and preparing for today, I was struck by an arresting news headline. Some of you may have seen it too. Christmas canceled in Bethlehem. As the war between Israel and Hamas rages on and threatens to expand to other areas, Palestinian Christians find themselves caught in the middle. They feel like the rest of the church has forgotten them. Palestinian Christians are part of some of the oldest Christian communities in the world. And they worship in some of the most ancient churches in our faith, dating back to 1,500 years ago. And as the bombing continues, these sacred sites are being destroyed, even as people take refuge inside. Christian leaders across denominations in the Holy Land assert that while the war continues, daily life just cannot go on as usual. So usually at this time of year, Bethlehem is filled to the brim with tourists and pilgrims and everyone eager to be at the epicenter of the Christmas story. But this year is different. All through the region, families are grieving the loss of loved ones. In Bethlehem's manger square, instead of joyful preparations for the birth of Jesus, all the decorations and the twinkle lights are coming down. So the patriarchs and the heads of churches in Jerusalem have gotten together and written a statement, a joint statement. And I want to read a little excerpt to you. They write, quote, "These are not normal times. Since the start of the war, there has been an atmosphere of sadness and pain. Thousands of innocent civilians, including women and children, have died or suffered serious injuries. Many more grieve over the loss of their homes, their loved ones, or the uncertain fate of those dear to them. Throughout the region, even more have lost their work and are suffering from serious economic challenges. Yet despite our repeated calls for a humanitarian ceasefire and a de-escalation of violence, the war continues. Therefore, we, the patriarchs and heads of the churches in Jerusalem, call upon our congregations to stand strong with those facing such afflictions by this year, forgoing any unnecessarily festive activities. We likewise encourage our priests and the faithful to focus more on the spiritual meaning of Christmas and their pastoral activities and liturgical celebrations during this period, with all of the focus directed at holding in our thoughts our brothers and sisters affected by this war and its consequences, and with fervent prayers for a just and lasting peace for our beloved Holy Land." End quote. It's times like these, friends, that the meaning of Advent is clear. It's times like these that we recognize the violence and suffering of the human condition and why Jesus had to come into the world. It's times like these, in the darkness of war, that we wait for light and hope. And we want to know that God is faithful, that God sees us, that God is with us. And as we read our scripture text today, these ancient texts seem so hauntingly close to us. The people are calling out for divine intervention. All of these scriptures we have today underscore that things are not okay. Listen to the plea of the prophet Isaiah. The exiles are facing countless hardships as they're trying to return to the homeland. Verse 1, "Oh, that you would tear open the heavens and come down, so that the mountains would quake at your presence." Verse 7, "You have hidden your face from us. You have delivered us into the hand of our iniquity." The people are wishing for God to come and make things right. They're worried that they're forgotten, that God has turned away God's face from them. Yet it's in these moments of deepest distress when they are reminded that they are all God's people. God is their creator, their parent, the potter, and they are the work of God's hand. In our gospel reading, we're starting the year with a new gospel. We'll be studying Mark this year, the shortest of the four. And it's helpful to remember that this gospel too was shaped in wartime, which may be one of the reasons why it's so short. It was written around 70, the year 70, during or right after the Jewish-Roman War, and it's just about 35 years after Jesus' crucifixion. And that war ended with the sacking of Jerusalem and the destruction of the temple. So the Jewish community there was decimated and the population dispersed throughout the Mediterranean. So interestingly, rather than starting out at the beginning of Mark, our passage picks up right at the same moment that we've been studying in Matthew for the past few weeks. So Jesus and the disciples are in Jerusalem and they're in their final few moments together, and he's teaching them as much as he possibly can. And Jesus is drawing on the prophetic tradition of the Hebrew scriptures. Here we heard him use this language of cosmic cataclysm. The sun and the moon darken, the stars fall, the heavens shake. And throughout all of this, Jesus stresses the need for watchfulness and faithful vigilance. It was something I said. The disciples ask him back in verse 4, "When will this be? And what will be the sign that these things are about to be accomplished?" No one knows the day or the hour, Jesus says. So keep alert, awake, and vigilant in doing God's work. For us here in our wealthy, modern context, observing the season of Advent is countercultural. It's complex. It doesn't fit on a bumper sticker. Simultaneously, all these things are happening. It's looking backward to the incarnation of Jesus. It's looking forward to the second coming. And it's also speaking to our present moment as we see the face of Christ in our neighbor. And this year, as two wars are raging in different parts of the world, so many of our neighbors are in mourning. So many people are suffering. Here at home, we face challenges of our own. We're not at war, but we have our own private battles that we go through. For all of us around the world, the message of Advent is clear. In the darkness, in the shadows, in the grief, these are the places that Jesus chooses to come. These are the places that the light of Christ will shine. Our presiding Bishop Michael Curry has a wonderful book, The Power of Love. And in there he writes, quote, "I hope you recognize love as the most powerful force for personal change and for changing the world around us. Yes, we live in scary times. Yes, people are hurting. But anger is not the key. Revenge is not the answer. The way of love, the love and power of God, is the key to our hope and to our future. The message of God is very simple. Love one another. Take care of one another. Take care of creation. And while you're at it, love me, love God. Do that, and you will find your way. That is the core of the gospel. End quote. And to that beautiful paragraph, I add, that is the light in the darkness. That is the light of Christ that shines in every single one of you. As our Palestinian Christian neighbors are teaching us, the season is different this year. Now is not the time for showy pomp and circumstance. It is the time to remember that our Creator chooses the lowliest of places. He chooses poverty and marginalization, not riches and power. He chooses the manger, not the throne. This Advent, in those shadowy places of our lives, may we remember you are not forgotten. God sees you. God hears you. God is faithful. Hope is not lost. Love is the way, the light in the darkness. So keep awake. Jesus is coming.